Yeah. Thank you. Welcome back. We'll move to 4.7. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I have received, and Jillian or Trustee DeMarco as the other Leduc trustee has received emails, comments, discussions at school councils, personal conversations about the programs, space, enrollment numbers, grade configurations at CTK and Father Leduc. So I'm just wondering if it's the will of the board to explore and learn more about the programs offered at CTK, the enrollment numbers between our feeder schools of the elementary and Father Leduc into Christ the King, and when parents are making decisions for those streams for the junior and senior high years. So I guess what I'm asking for is if it's the will of the board to ask administration to bring this information forward to the board as a presentation for information purposes so that we can assess the current realities for better understanding if we need to or if we should make different decisions for these schools.
Thank you for bringing that to the board's attention. Probably I will ask Mr. Bouchard, can we make this request for next month? I will assume, trustee, right?
What works for timeline?
Timeline to present.
So just for clarity, that the numbers, the transition numbers between schools, that would be easy enough. When you say programming, what exactly would you like presented?
I think what I'm finding, and I certainly have heard, is that the public, the parents who are making decisions about sending their child to Christ the King or through another stream aren't aware of the programs offered. Not specific, but the number and the general feeling of the types of programming offered at CTK when they're making those decisions, whether they're making those decisions in grade 6 or in grade 8 for Father Leduc. So for us as a board to kind of understand what is being offered there, so that we can also have those conversations with the public.
Yeah, just to add to John's comment, I think the perception is that CTK doesn't have the same offerings as the high school, and so just to have more of an awareness presented to potential parents and students, I think is more what we're asking for.
So like parent information night, or to give an in-depth like other schools do?
I think just, and correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but I think that just having the awareness of what CTK has to offer. So I know Trustee Miller spoke with one parent, and the perception with this parent was that CTK didn't have the same offerings, but when you showed the list of classes, it was an eye-opener for this parent to see that CTK did have the academic offerings that so does
They are looking for.
right.
So just an overview of programming?
Yes, please. Yeah. So we'll leave that to your timelines as to when we can gather those data information. That would be great. Okay, any other add-on to that? Okay, thank you. Any question from those online? No? All right. Thank you. Then we'll go to 4.8. Mr. Bouchard, your high school.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've received some great news regarding Beaumont High School and our capital plan efforts. So for the last 2-3 years, the issue with our capital plan has been the availability of land in Beaumont, to more specifically service land, so that we could say to Alberta Education and Infrastructure that if they were to award us a school, we could proceed. So they've always said, unless you have the ability to service that land, they're not going to announce a project. So there was a grant, as I've mentioned to the board in the past, we received from Alberta Infrastructure to assess the feasibility of a small high school fitting on a parcel of land in Lakeview. That study has been completed and it's positive. The 8.33 acres would facilitate a high school of 350. And that parcel can be serviced in the amount of time that Alberta Education requires. So that's great news. Since that survey was done by the architect and the report was completed, we also received news from the city of Beaumont that they would find land for a joint site for both a Black Gold High School and a Star Catholic High School. And that is in the northwest in the Eland subdivision. So what's nice about it is now there are two possibilities, one for a sole site alone and one for a joint site. So both projects could go depending on what the province deems fit, and both sites can be serviced in the time frame required. So it's great news for the city of Beaumont and for our capital plan. Are there any questions?
Any questions about this great news? Okay, Trustee Tagwood, go ahead.
This is great news. I just wonder, are we leaning towards one or the other? How do we decide which one?
We haven't made that decision yet. I believe that decision will be made by the local trustee and us to see best fits our division. Yeah, but we haven't done that yet. Yeah. Any other comments? Okay. So this is great news. This is good news. In that regard, we were supposed to be going to one of the board meetings to advocate, but now we have these two options presented to us. Local trustee is not here today, so probably we would like to defer this. Once she's back, have some conversations and then pursue where we want to go with this next month, and then give admin some direction, I believe, and then include our local politicians, see how best we can move the process forward on a timely manner. So that's the way I see this at this time. Go ahead, Trustee Leonard, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Charlie, do we have any idea what Black Gold is thinking about the collaborative option?
They are looking for a second school of about 1,000, I think is what they're after. Now, both divisions have communicated to the city over and over that in 3 years, there'll be no more high school space in Beaumont. So I don't know what the province is looking to award, and I'm not exactly sure the size of their school and what a collaborative project would look like, but we know with Black Gold, because we've partnered with them, we already share a facility in Beaumont that we can work well with Black Gold. So I think we're open to the idea. Exactly what that would look like, I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. There are no any further comments. I'll say if the board would like, that would be my plan, right? Wait for the local to come in, and then we have that discussion again with Mr. Bouchard and see how we push this agenda forward. Okay. Thank you. Who is next now?
I think it's me again.
Oh, yes. ASBA Spring General Meeting, yeah.
So this is a really short item, but the Spring General Meeting, the SGM is on June 6th and 7th. We have reserved hotel rooms. They are a hot commodity because they're in a small hotel. We got on it right away and booked those rooms, but I want to release them if people aren't attending. So I just want to do a roll call, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind doing a roll call for us on who's going to attend that meeting and whether they need a room.
All right. So we will go, give me 1 second here. Asba Spring. Okay, Kim, you're with me? Okay, so we'll start with you, Michael. June 6 and 7, that's in red here, for the Asba Spring General Meeting. Are you able to attend, or you need a date to respond?
There was one or two.
Just give me 1 sec here.
Normally we arrive at 6 and then out the 7. Yeah. Unless you want to stay for the next PD day, which normally 1 or 2 trustees.
I think it's just the 6th and the 7th. They're the only 2 days.
Yeah, I could do the 6th and 7th.
6 and 7, okay. So we have Michael. And you, Trustee Berg.
I think I'll pass.
You pass?
Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Tagwood.
I will be attending virtually as I'll be in Toronto at that time.
Okay, and you live in Lacombe, you can drive back home if you choose.
And last year I was able to do that.
All right, Trustee DeMarco.
I will have to let you know tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow then email, Kim, please. Yeah. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Okay. For myself, yes. Thank you. So we got this.
Mr. Chair, just Trustee Tugwood, would you have any sense of Trustee Taylor Sirwa's intentions or not?
I haven't talked to her about it. She did attend other years, so I'm thinking she probably will be planning on attending. Probably will need the hotel room for, I don't know if she'd want it for the 1 night or the 2 nights.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We can include them then. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. We'll go to 4.10.
All right, so trustees, this morning we did a little bit of a recap of the board priorities and the goals and outcomes for the division. So we have completed the division survey. We are going to highlight a few things related to this, but the areas that Assistant Superintendent Cardinal will talk about will be part of what shapes our education plan in May. So I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Cardinal to lead us in a little bit of an overview of the data that we found today.
Okay, thank you. I'm just making sure that you can see the Google Slides that say Star Catholic Division Survey results.
No.
Okay, it says that I'm screen sharing. Let's try that again.
No, it's screen sharing the Zoom.
Share screen, screen 1. All right, how's that? Can you see that now? Excellent. Okay, lovely. All right.
Swap these.
Okay, here we go. All right, so thank you very much for this opportunity to present the division results. I would like to really thank Caitlin for helping me collate the data and just providing some insights. She's done a lot of background work and supported me in this, as well as Charlie in terms of providing feedback and guidance. So essentially what I'm going to focus on is the overall results and just communicate to you what came up as areas of need within our division survey. And why do we do a division survey? Well, essentially, we need that data, and that data will help guide us. And the quote that I chose for this is basically, without data, you're just a person with an opinion. So we can always kind of guess as to why we have certain results, why enrollment might be down, or whatever that might be. However, when we actually dig deeper and use data to guide us, we can find out more concrete information. So essentially the data is provided divisionally and also to individual schools. So both the division and the schools, they look at the data at their level. So in the division, we look overall as to what that data is telling us. And at the school level, they look at school level data trends. So they're looking to see, is there something specific to their school community that they do need to address? And once they've found this data and looked at it and analyzed it, they consult on the strategies with stakeholders. So, and that's both at the division level and at the school level. So they turn to the stakeholders and they try to find out more information and dig deeper as to the why, but also as to then what would be the most effective way to address the areas of need. And then that will then guide the education plan. So the education plan will get revised and it will include new strategies and it'll address any issues that were identified. So we're looking here at the first key priority 1, which is grow and firm Catholic identity. And we essentially scored quite well in all of the, in the survey, in all of these areas, in all of the goals. However, there was some data that we do need to address divisionally and at the school level. So the one area of growth, and this comes up over year after year, is students learn what it means to live in relationship with Jesus Christ. And this is teachers share their faith experiences with students and the role of God in the teacher's life. So this is what comes up, is that 67% of parents say that they are either, they strongly agree or agree that teachers share their faith experience, and 75% of secondary students. So these are results that are under 80%. Now, what I would like for you to pay attention to in this next slide is just what this looks like. Let me just move that, okay. So here you will see that 67% of parents strongly agree. However, 27.25% are unsure. So this would be an area that we would need to basically advise with parents to find out how can we communicate better about how teachers share their faith with students, and so that they know a little bit more about what is happening in schools. When you look at the secondary students, you'll see that 72.22% either strongly agree or agree that teachers share their faith. And when you look at how the other numbers break down, you've got 17.15% that disagree or strongly disagree, and 11% are unsure. So that gives us about 28% of the population that just we need to get more information about. We need to consult on to find out why they feel this way. Why are they unsure? And why do they disagree that teachers are sharing their faith? And moving on to key priority 2. So again, we scored above 80% on many of the measures. And so you're familiar with these priorities, so I won't read them to you. So I'll move on to the identified areas of growth. So the first one is I have the opportunity for meaningful professional development related to my role. And this came up as support staff was 65.52%, and the previous 3-year results was at 75%. So in looking at the data, we found that perhaps there may have been fewer opportunities for PD due to COVID-19. Many sessions were offered virtually, and as I feel even today, I feel disconnected because being online, it's not quite as impactful, right? So that could be part of the reasoning behind it. So again, we have to address this as a division and ensure that there are opportunities for support staff to receive meaningful professional development for their role. And we also have to look at that at the school level, because the schools will see their individual results and they will be able to identify in terms of, is it their school that perhaps the support staff is unhappy with the amount of PD they're receiving. Okay, and then the next is I have the opportunity to access division and school supports. And you'll see here the support staff results is at 75.86, and the previous 3-year results was 94%. And so again, our staff at central office, because there was a work at home mandate provincially, our central office staff went less into the schools. They did go into the schools, but if they could do their work virtually, they did. Again, fewer opportunities for PD because of COVID. And again, sessions offered virtually, which again limits engagement and meaningfulness. So we've got to dig in a little bit deeper about how we can ensure that our support staff feels that they have access to division and school supports. All right, our next area of growth is secondary students saying that I'm proud of the way my school looks. So we're down, it's not too much. We're at 78.57, and our previous 3-year results were at 82.5%, but we are down a little bit. And we know that we do have some older school buildings, which we are mitigating with some rebuilds, modernizations. And they're showing their age. They're in need of some love and TLC here. So again, there's fewer opportunities to explore or appreciate the whole school because they were often cohorted. So that was another issue as well, is that they may not have had access to the whole school as well. And again, individual schools would be able to drill down into this data and see, is it their school? And then they would then consult with the secondary students to find out why it is that they feel this way. And moving forward, our school has the physical facilities to meet the programming needs of students. And so we have teachers saying at 77.38% and support staff at 77%. Now, I don't really want to mention individual schools, but one of the schools that had a high disagree rate, I think you might be able to predict, and that is Father Lacombe, which were at 81.82% that they disagreed that they have the physical facilities to meet their programming needs. So there's a huge opportunity there, because come September, they will have a new building and this should change the results. So this is probably not a place that they would do a lot of consulting, for example, because they're already receiving a new building, and this isn't something that we would really consult on because we kind of know what the issues are at this point. All right, moving on to key priority 3, supporting students in their journey and ensuring all are successful learners. And again, above 80% in many of the areas. So I will move on to identified areas of growth. And this one is anxiety. So again, the mental health responses were fairly consistent across the division. There wasn't any one school or one community, excuse me, that would have a lower result. Again, from year to year, worrying about going to school. Elementary students has slightly improved, but not by much. Again, secondary students has not really improved. Having difficulty lowering stress when doing schoolwork, we're at 27%, so that's increased. And about almost 46% of secondary students, which is very slight increase from the previous year. And experiencing headaches or stomach aches. So again, these are all indications of anxiousness. And so we're looking at 24.82% of elementary students, which is slightly better than the previous year at 28%, and 31.83% of secondary students. And the previous year was 33%. And why do I say that the previous year and not the previous 3 years is that last year we decided to change the questions because every question in the survey, when we had created them in the first year, were positive. So they would answer in a positive manner. And when we changed them last year before we administered the survey, we decided, because all of our mental health questions were in the negative, I worry about going to school. I have high stress. Whereas this way we changed the questions to say, I have no worries about going to school, just to help to continue on that positive trend within the survey. So again, there's pandemic related stresses, worrying about getting sick, worrying about loved ones getting sick, friends and teachers, etc. And students were in and out of school. Some were learning at home. Some were, I mean, you know the situation, I don't have to repeat it. However, there were a lot of stressors last year. So this is something that we're hoping as students come in that we will be able to mitigate. But again, this is definitely something that we do have to address as a division and individually at our schools. All right, and another area of growth is I understand how I learn best and I'm able to communicate to my teacher. So we're looking at about 76%, 77% of students strongly agreeing or agreeing, but there is a contingency that either disagree or are unsure. And again, there's been a lot of challenges with in and out and learning from home and missing time while they're sick. And also teachers missing time while they're sick, like while they're sick or away, or they have family members sick. So the unpredictability of the situation has been a factor here. But this is not something that we're going to, let slide. We will certainly be addressing this and consulting. And our school has access to the resources necessary to support students and their families' social and emotional well-being. So we're looking at 74.46% of teachers that said that their school does have access, and again, about 10% that are unsure. And our previous year average was, 3-year average, was 90%. So that has gone down. And again, has been a significant more need for those services during the pandemic or due to the pandemic, and has created challenges in all aspects of life, including home life and students being secluded at home and not having those connections that they may have previously. And also connections to school staff as well. And again, in some of our rural areas, you're very aware that we do need more external resources. So again, this is something that we're trying to mitigate by having our own SLS team, but it is a continued need. So what's next? And this is just essentially a repeat of the second slide, was just after we review and analyze the data, the schools and the division will engage stakeholders to advise on areas of growth and develop strategies through consultation with students, parents, and staff, and co-create education plans for the upcoming year through advisement. Now, just to that point, sometimes in the past, and I'm not saying it's always, but sometimes it became a compliance document, a 3-year ed plan, where, let's say the principal and vice principal sit down and they write their education plan, and then it's done, it's handed in. This new process with the assurance model is essentially that they really want to make sure that we are asking our stakeholders, what do they want? And this is the opportunity. Okay, we see these areas of growth. Now, what can we do to help and support and to change that so that we're meeting your needs? And then finally, the education plans will be completed by May 30th. So that'll be the full cycle. So thank you, and we need to continue to just look at our data results to help make a difference for STAR and for our community, because again, this data really does guide us and let us know where is it that we need to improve and what can we do, how can we improve by when we communicate with our stakeholders and ask our stakeholders, what is it that they need?
Thank you, Angel One. Back to trustees, any question? A question? Yeah. Okay, I see no question there. Just for my comments, again, coming out of the pandemic, a lot of this, as she's shared with us, isn't surprise to me, right? People's minds aren't where it's supposed to be. That is one. What I would like trustees to do is, as we go back into our communities, as we attend school council meetings, right? The assurance model was intentionally built that we are being collaborative with our communities, right? Engaging them and having them participate in some of these. So please encourage them when we do send out some of these survey requests. It's in that fact because we want to hear from them so that we are making some of these informed decisions as they are guiding the work we do around the board table, right? So once again, thank you. We will, sorry, oh, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if we could get a copy of that presentation. Some numbers were a little bit hard to see, or the raw data, whatever that might.
Yeah. All right. Assistant Deb, Charlie, can we?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Thank
Lori, if you could share that slide deck with them, please.
Absolutely, I will. With the trustees directly, or would you like me to send it to Kim?
With the trustees is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and Joanne. All right, we will go to 4.1, Catholic Education Week. Again, we've been talking about how do we, as part of the grace work, how do we share with our communities? How do we talk about the good work that we do and what differentiates Catholic education from the rest of the education system? That being said, we have something to share, and I'll have Mr. Bishard. And thank you, Caitlin, for helping put this together for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you can see in the package, it's quite a comprehensive plan that Caitlin's put together to celebrate Catholic Education Week. We're always excited about the stories and the pictures that schools share. We've modeled the strategies this year specifically around our faith view of witness. So we're asking for staff, students, trustees, anybody who wants to kind of share some of their stories about faith witness. You can see in the one table, there's some advanced work being done ahead of Catholic Education Week, but then you can also see the activities that we've got scheduled on the various days through Catholic Education Week, including the Wear Blue for World Catholic Education Day, which was started by Holy Family Catholic a number of years ago, as well as sharing provincial grace and ACSCA messaging as it comes forward. Caitlin has met with other communications coordinators throughout the province, and they've discussed as well what divisions are doing during this week. So unless there's any questions, that's the plan that we'll put in place and proceed accordingly.
So trustees, we've done this in the past 4 years, 3-4 years. So with your blessing, I will ask admin them to proceed as we get closer to those dates. If you are not on social media, but you have something to share, probably get in touch with Caitlin and we can feature some of those on our page, right? Because I'm not on Facebook, neither am I on Twitter, right? But I know if I send it to Caitlin, I will be there, right? So thank you again, Caitlin and Charlie, for putting this together. 4.12, that's the municipal letters. Again, it's a constitutional right that we like to remind our ratepayers, and the letter is pretty much self-explanatory. I have those here in the other communities, and I've already talked to Charlie and assistant here, executive assistant here. We'll send those back to the schools if we have people going that way, and then you'll be contacted to pick it up, take it to the church offices. As well, we've shared the digital copies to be included in the digital newsletters, but we know we all don't play on virtual things, so some people would like the paper to read. So take it to the church office and then it could be put in front of the bulletin or whatever that people can. All right, thank you. Any questions between these three things before we move? No? All right. And then Tunis for tuition as well. This is something that we've encouraged, and especially with our high school graduates. So when you have the opportunity to speak with them, and I believe administrators are aware of that, we encourage them to support that through donations. As they've benefited from Catholic education, we have some provinces that aren't very much fortunate to have full funding. And so it's a reminder again, like we've talked about works of social justice, right? So it's part of all of that to support provinces that are not able to receive full funding for Catholic education. So please, this is also for your sharing, and talk about this at school councils and other things to promote it. And I know at the end of the year, as well, we have teachers and other staff that support it through payroll deductions, and we do receive all that credit or report back when the year comes to an end. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Is there a pamphlet or a site or something that we can look to provide information to our school councils or our constituents?
CCSTA. When you go on the website there, yeah, they have it, because all this goes back to CCSTA. Yes, to be dispersed. Okay. That being said, segue into CCSTA, June 2nd and 3rd is the virtual conference. So if you haven't registered yet, go on that website. It's a virtual conference that we do participate in. Look at your calendars and then please do the registration. Okay. All right. We will keep moving on. Number 5, back to our action items. And I will defer that to Trustee DeMarco.
All right, so in the package, we included the guiding principles that we are using for the collective bargaining. So I would ask that the board approve the guiding principles for collective bargaining document as presented.
Thank you, Trustee DeMarco. And for historical context to the board, to the rest of the trustees, again, this is something that will guide the lenses under which, when we get to that table, we're going to be making decisions, because we just don't go with no context or idea as to how. So this is to guide, right, how we're making. So again, when public asks, why did you make this decision? These are the things that guide some of those decisions that we make. So you making that motion? All right, thank you. Any discussion or comment? Go ahead, Trustee Tagwood.
I didn't realize someone else made the motion, so that's fine.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Couldn't see.
I see no any other hands. I will call the question and show by hands. All in favor, please. All right, carried. 5.2. So we are the calendars. Mr. Bouchard.
I'll defer to Assistant Superintendent Malloy.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very pleased to be presenting to the board 4 draft calendars for approval. In creating these calendars, we work closely with our sister boards of Wild Rose, Wetaskiwin Regional, Wolf Creek, and Black Gold, and it's a very collaborative project. As you can see, though, we are limited in the amount of changes that we can create on those calendars due to our combined busing. And so we do have our limited limits there. However, I'm very pleased to say that each calendar will have the same number of teacher days, student days. We also have 3 collaborative days for all staff, which would be Reflection Day, Institute Day and Learning Day. So those are the key items for the calendars I wish to present today, but I'm open also to any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you. Okay, this is what I would like to do. I will have somebody make the motion, and then we'll come back to comments and questions, please. Who's ready? Michael, okay. Trustee Tagood, go ahead.
I thought you said Michael, but it's okay if I make the motion.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion that the board give, where are we? Approve, oh, wait a minute. That the board approve the draft 2022-2023 school year calendars as presented.
thank you. Trustee Tagood. Okay, we'll go back to any questions or comments before we call the question. Yeah. All right. So, quick question. As you said, we have 4 partners that we deal with. Oh my gosh, yeah. We know that. How impactful does that sometimes come with the busing when we are closed and they are open?
What are the impacts of that?
Yeah.
Well, certainly the impact
for
of having
busing.
to run and pay for our own busing if that need is. Busing is not always available to do that, to have that. So that is a huge impact for running our buses there. But we do have our partnerships. We do have a community that we do run buses for a few days to ensure that we get our numbers of days in for our students, and the partnership with that school board has been successful.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Or wrap this up? Yeah. And once again, I would like to publicly acknowledge and thank Wetaskiwin Public, Wolf Creek, and Wild Rose and Black Gold for the collaborative nature of busing. And we all do know busing especially drive the cost of divisions because we subsidize that a lot. And we are all anticipating and waiting for the province to make its announcement on the busing, whatever report it got back from the task force. Okay. So again, if you speak with your MLAs and politicians, you tell them how grateful we have some partnerships that we really work with. Yeah. Thank you. So we'll now call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bouchard, so you have money to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So trustees are aware from previous conversations that the pandemic and some of the federal funding resulted in some surplus monies for the division. You also heard earlier in the meeting that there will be a cap on surplus reserve monies moving forward at the end of next year. So as a result of those 2 items, at the last board meeting, the board directed administration to bring a proposal to spend down some of the reserve surplus money and to support schools in some of their requests to spend that money. So we had about $1.3 million available to allocate. So by process, we asked schools to submit their wish list, for lack of a better word. At that point, senior administration reviewed the items and came up with a variety of items, and we've categorized them as you see in this package. In total, the administration is putting forward $1.22 million for expenditures in the categories outlined above. So again, as a reminder to trustees, spending money out of reserves requires ministerial approval. So should the board approve this request, we would then proceed with that approval process through the ministry. And then we would begin the process of allocating directly to schools and working with facilities to make those items come to life. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. and you have a possible motion before you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bouchard. Before we go into questions and comments, if I will ask someone to make the motion, put a motion on the floor, and then we'll go. Get trustee, just go ahead.
I move that the board approve the allocation of $1,222,643 from division unrestricted reserves in surplus to capital and operating reserves as outlined in the summary categories.
Thank you. And we'll open up for questions and comments to Mr. Bouchard. Yeah, go ahead.
Under wellness, can you explain what that might be used for?
Thank you, Trustee Miller. So in the wellness category, $45,000, administration is recommending the installation of dispensers and receptacles for feminine hygiene products, where we would have at least one washroom in our schools set up whereby we would provide students with free access to those feminine hygiene products. And that would just be an ongoing supply of those, but the bulk of the cost is the supply of those dispensers and receptacles.
Can I follow up?
Yeah, follow-up comment. Yeah.
Thank you to administration for that recommendation. I think that idea and using this money in this way is very beneficial.
I have a question for technology. Is that towards evergreening?
So none of the technology proposed is technology included in the Evergreen Plan. So there is a cart of iPads, for example, that is currently in a school as enhanced technology that they've paid for out of their own either school funds or fundraising or through school councils. So that technology is enhanced technology.
And the furniture and equipment, is that geared towards the new schools or no?
No. So Father Lacombe, when they are approved for a school, they get a furniture and equipment budget separate from this that they have access to outfit the new school. So this was in addition to that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Tagul.
The building improvements, is that also like the shed maybe at Father Lacombe? Is that included in that, or is that more fixing roofs and that type of thing?
The building improvement, that it could be an exterior building. There is a shed being proposed at Father Lacombe for approval. It also includes some repairs to cupboards, some removal of planters in the high school at St. Augustine and turning those into student collaborative spaces. So those are some of the examples of what would fall under building improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up question or comment? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just have one question. So schools were able to submit, I guess, in a sense, a wish list, and some might not have been approved. I'm just wondering, could you give the, I guess, guiding principles as to what the administration was looking at in terms of approving?
I think, Trustee Leonard, the biggest direction given was that the money was for things that were sometimes more difficult to purchase, would take many years. Staffing was not permitted to be submitted as a possible expenditure. So they were more for capital items. So either hard goods attached to the facility or to items that would support curriculum, but it was not to be used or submitted for staffing because it wasn't sustainable.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. I see no further questions or comments? Okay, I would like to call the question and show by hand, all in favor? Thank you. Carried. So we'll wait to hear from the minister. Thank you, boys. Okay, we will go to 5.4. So let us talk about money again.
So at its last meeting, the Finance Committee met and reviewed the trustee remuneration and expense schedule attached as Appendix B to Policy 7. The committee made no recommendations to change the per diem rates. The only recommendation was to increase the per diem amounts for meals by $5 each. So it'd be $5 additional and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and make that effective September 1st, 2022.
Thank you. And that came with a motion, so I will ask someone to put a motion on the floor, and then we'll come back and debate it. Okay. Michael, you ready to talk?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I move that the board approve the annual honoraria and per diem allowances for trustees, Policy 7, Appendix B, trustee honoraria / expense schedule as presented, effective September 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Now we'll go back to questions and comments. Because I already sit at the finance, I know this is very much on par. As we've been talking about, we have a cohort of school divisions that we normally look at when we're making some of these decisions, and we're pretty much in the medium with those boards based on our student population and our budget. Okay. If there are no questions or comments, we will call the question then. Okay, all in favor? Well, thank you. Carried. All right, 5.5. We'll go back to you, Selena.
Yep. I move that the board give Policy 18, school fundraising, third and final reading as presented, and that the revised policy be now in effect for the division. And this is all going to be in gray. The changes are going to be in gray, and there have not been any changes to this one since our last meeting.
Thank you. Any comments? Question? Okay. I see no hands, and there's been no changes since the last meeting in March. So I'll call a question. All in favor, show by hand. All right, carried. Thank you. Move along. 5.6.
Oh, just one sec. I just lost it here. So I'm going to make this one with an amendment as well, that the board give Policy 21, vaccinations, second and third reading as presented.
Yeah, and what is your amendment?
Oh, just to add third reading instead of just second.
Oh, okay. Third and final reading. All right, so that's a motion before the floor. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Should we not, just process question, should we not ask to waive what is in policy currently for 3 separate readings, or just to clarify? I think the way that the amendment came is okay, but just to clarify that we don't need to waive the need for 3 separate.
Yeah, so process, I know we going back to that last discussion, okay. I believe no, because as we're moving further forward, coming back to the next batch, that's when that will be checked. Thank you. So all in favor, show by hand. Okay. Oh,
Miss,
sorry, your hands are up, yeah?
sorry, Mr. Chair, I just, can we have some discussion on this one?
Oh, you have a discussion?
Yeah, I just have a couple points.
Okay, go
yeah.
ahead.
Some of them I've made already when we talked about the changes to this one at the first, but I also do have some other ones that I haven't brought up yet as well. And it's just an opportunity for if public's watching so that they understand why I might vote the way I vote. So the first thing is that I believe that we shouldn't scrap that clause that's been scrapped in this amendment. I think parental choice is maintained as we do not prevent parents from receiving these vaccinations. Second point, maintaining the practice of having AHS distribute the consent forms promotes our commitment to our students that we recognize abstinence as first, something that is actually able to be practiced, and second, a better form of protection against HPV and other STIs. And then the final point I wish to make is, if I can recall our first discussion, our board has been through some significant battles with regards to these to this clause in our policy. This clause remains, meaning that for the time, our board has been recognized as being right and justified in maintaining this clause. Repealing this clause is conceding ground for our autonomy as a Catholic school board in this matter. We need to ask ourselves, where does AHS go from here with regards to asking us to protect our students in ways that may conflict with our morals? And how does this submission to, how does our submission to this request affect future challenges?
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Like you said, you wanted to put that on the record, so I'll leave it aside. Any other comments? Okay, go ahead.
As far as number 6, I believe that parents still have that choice. We're not taking away their choice. They can fill out the form and either say yes or no. I just think it's important that it be done at the school and it all be in the same way. So that's why I'm voting for this. Thank you.
Okay. See any other comments? So, sorry, I'll call the question again. Okay, all in favor? Okay. 4. Okay. And then against? Thank you. And you want a name recorded?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We'll proceed to 5.7. It's you again. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay. I move that the board give policy 22, divisional prayer and patriotism, second reading as presented. And there's only one change to it. For whatever reason, mine's not coming up, but the change had to do with focus on following. Oh, perfect. Here we are. Yeah, just that last sentence added. Additionally, the board acknowledges the importance and prominence of the Canadian and Alberta flags and promotes the flying of these flags as directed by the superintendent and administrators.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. I'll ask you to make that motion and then we'll have the discussion. Yeah, make that motion and then we'll go to the discussions.
I think you did.
Oh, he did, okay. All right, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just, I'd like to kind of see what the room temperature is in amending the motion to include second and third reading for this.
Yeah,
Or I would officially like to make that amendment.
okay,
Mr.
friendly
Chair.
amendment, okay, if you want to make that a friendly amendment, we'll ask policy chair, will you take that as a friendly amendment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other comments? Question? I see none. All right, I will show my hand, all in favor. All right, carried. Thank you. Okay, before we move to number 6, can we quickly take 5 minutes so we can check the temperature in this room? I'm cooking, Charlie.
You're not used to wearing a tie.
No, you got that too right. Okay, so we take